Hey there, super friends. It's Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Wednesday, April 10th, 2019. So it's been, like a week and a half. Last week, I did record an episode on Monday, but it was, just a special kind of garbage, like completely unfocused, insubstantial. So I ended up killing it. Then Tuesday was a weird day. I brushed up against one of my past lives, which, always kind of causes a reality stutter for me. And, I had to take some time to process it and think about, what it meant and if it had any effect on the current timeline, and it doesn't. It just took me a while to come to that conclusion. So, I guess I'm just going to kind of cut to the chase. I've been avoiding talking about this, and I'm not even going to really talk about it directly. Because So here's the thing with these cases of inappropriate conduct. Everybody gets frustrated that there's not more real information about what happened. But the problem is they can't really provide, in this case, WotC, they can't really provide anything close to what would equate to details. Because the internet loves a good mystery. And if they put something out there, like last fall, it was reported at an event, a player had inappropriate physical contact with another player that is classified as sexual harassment. Well, sleuth's gonna sleuth. They're gonna dig. They're gonna try to piece together these tiny breadcrumbs that are left, come up with a story, and regardless of hey, here's a selfie this fan of theirs took with them. Wow, you're so cool. I can totally tell because your car's so loud. Anyway, so, we found the selfie of, this player asked the player in question to take with them, and look, he put his arm around her, and that must be what this is all about, and this is total bullshit. And regardless of if the person who wanted the picture with that player is the one who laid allegations against them or not, which, by the way, the photo isn't necessarily the occurrence. It's a snapshot in time. But, yeah, sleuths, they love to sleuth. So if you give them anything to work with, they will pick through, whatever posts they can find. Some people have nothing but time on their hands. So to provide any details at all, it's really tough to know how much is still vague enough that nobody can form a trail to anything. Because again, it doesn't even really matter if these sleuthing conclusions are the truth or not. The person that they line up the breadcrumbs to lead to is still going to catch flack. And it doesn't matter if they deny it or not until they would make the accuser's name public. Then it's, now that you're taking flack for it, you're denying it. It turns into a big mess, a bigger mess than it currently is. And I know that's hard. I know for people that are watching one of their icons fall, it's really hard to accept the lack of information. But unfortunately, that's how it has to be to protect the target of whatever the behavior was. And in these cases, you do have to protect the target because the fact of it is, this kind of shit already doesn't get reported enough. So when you're not protecting the accuser, then, and they get a giant target painted on their back, in the future, people are going to be, people negatively impacted by inappropriate conduct are going to be more reluctant to come forward. And that's the last thing we fucking need. So, if you go to my Twitter, @StrangerSparrow, I am currently Joey Sage Lifecrafter. So, Boo's name is Sage. So, the Sage Lifecrafter thing I found really funny. There is a pinned tweet linking back to the article they did after the whole Jeremy Sprinkles situation, talking about the code of conduct and everything. And in there, they linked to customer service. However, I went to the customer service last night, or the customer service site last night. I followed their links from the article, and I couldn't find anywhere to report shit. But they do include an email address. I think it's investigations@wizards.com. The email address is in the pinned tweet. You don't even have to go through the article to find it. If you see this kind of behavior, please report it. Like, Paulo Viter did a bit on it. I did a bit on it. I want to say maybe Marshall Sutcliffe also did a bit on it. Somebody else did. About, why you call a judge when something seems, weird in your gameplay. And, okay, maybe it's not necessarily your opponent trying to cheat. Maybe it is a simple mistake. But enough simple mistakes that benefit your opponent, enough quote-unquote simple mistakes made by the same player that always seem to benefit them, constitutes a pattern. In which case, that's a problem. Either they need somebody to tutor them into how to play the game a little more correctly, or they're hoping you don't notice their simple mistake that gave them an advantage. Mistakes happen. We all fuck up. Totally happens. Happens, fairly regularly. But the problem is when you keep making the same mistake over and over again. So, right, we've talked about how, why it's important that when this stuff happens, you report it to a judge. Because a pattern can't be established unless everybody who catches it reports it, and there are multiple reports. And it's the same kind of thing here. Is, yes, a fair number of gamers are not socially adept. They're a little awkward, and some things that get chalked up to, or some things that some people could perceive as, some sort of harassment, is really just awkward being awkward. But if you write it off all the time, like, somebody needs to address that with that player. Obviously. And again, enough reports of, so I noticed this behavior from this player, means that it's not a one-time thing. It's not it's a pattern. And the most frustrating thing I see whenever one of these scandals breaks is a bunch of people running around going, oh yeah, this was totally an open secret. No, that sucks. That really fucking sucks. Is that people allow it to be an quote unquote open secret. That they're aware of the behavior and do nothing to put an end to it. And I get it, not everybody's confrontational. Some people are paralyzingly afraid of confrontation. I understand that. I understand that not everybody's bold enough to, go calling people out. And honestly, if you're going to lay accusations of this nature against somebody without being willing to share any kind of even anecdotal evidence, It's kind of a big deal. So, I mean, I get that, and that's why I, did some quick Googling last night and tried to find a resource to provide that does not require anybody to directly confront somebody and also isn't putting your name publicly on the report. But hopefully they get investigated. As far as SCG players go, I can't imagine if you reach out to Cedric Phillips and say, hey, so I noticed something not quite kosher, that if there was nothing Cedric could do to address it, that he wouldn't either forward your concerns on to the appropriate parties or tell you what parties to report it to. Same with people like Marshall Sutcliffe, LSP. And I say this because, one, I think that they are reasonably upstanding people. But two, they're all financially vested in the success of tournament magic. One of Cedric's 80 jobs is taking care of the event coordination and everything for SCG. So if these things keep going unaddressed and tournament attendance keeps dwindling and it continues to be a problem, they eventually won't have jobs. I mean, Cedric will have one of his 79 other jobs. Well, all of his 79 other jobs. I mean, it is a joke, but no, Cedric Phillips actually completely busts his fucking ass. The man works, I think last count it was 3 full-time jobs. He's got a lot on his plate. So if not for the benevolent reason of we need to stop this toxicity, for the reason of I have a stake in tournament magic to continue, and therefore I have a reason other than moral or ethical commitment to deal with this. Now, granted, I know I'm saying all this and that makes it sound like I have come to a decision on our latest scandal. I haven't. All that's out there as far as actual news, well, there isn't any actual news. That's the problem. It's all rumor and conjecture. So, sorry about that. So, I mean, at this time, per my last search of the banned DCI numbers, Turtenwald's not on that list. I believe probably what's happening, and I have no insider information, I have no inside sources. This is just my own sleuthing or laziness. I'm assuming an investigation is currently underway on whatever allegations were laid against him. I'm assuming nothing will be done until that investigation is concluded. But the facts are that a nearly statistically insignificant amount of these kinds of allegations turn out to be false. But the problem is there are documented false allegations, so people cling to that near statistically insignificant sampling as I guess reasonable doubt, or what they feel is reasonable doubt. So no, I don't know what happened or anything like that, but I'm assuming they're investigating it, or they may be investigating how they can gracefully terminate his contract. WotC has a pretty big legal team, so I'm assuming those MPL contracts were written with an escape clause. If they weren't, damn it, WotC, fire your legal team, God. So, I don't know. MTG Line, I don't generally tune into him, but I've been periodically searching to see if there's more solid information about this. Did a video on the Kotaku article written, and he makes some really good points. I'm not a fan of the Kotaku article because it really, I'm pretty sure it states they only have two sources. This Mary Locke person, I mean, I don't know who she is, but that really has no bearing. Like, an unknown person laying allegations against a known person does not necessarily make them invalid. Apparently she is known to some, I don't know. They have information from her and an anonymous male player that was willing to give them information but not put his name on it. And again, I do understand why you don't want to put your name on it, but at the same time, publishing hearsay third-party accounts of information from somebody that you're not actually citing as a source seems kind of sketchy. And okay, you know, it sounds like they gave both Turtenwald and WotC an opportunity to respond to their request for comment, and neither party chose to. But I don't know, it doesn't seem like there was enough information available to confidently write an article of that nature. That's my take on it. Because as MTG Line said, at this point, it's likely not going to matter the validity of the allegations. They could be completely false, and I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying they could be, and his career is still likely ruined. But I don't know. We have to kind of see how it plays out, see if anything is ever said on it again. I mean, I'll give Star City, at least with the Todd Stevens case, no, they didn't release any details. Again, they're not going to. They can't. Not without putting those who accused him in the line of fire, or potentially doing so. But they did say that, okay, he's banned from the SCG tour for 3 years, and we've, severed all ties. They at least came out to that. They're like, yep, reports happened, we deemed them valid, this is the action we took, it's done, it's over, we don't want to talk about it. Which is fine, because again, they have to be really careful what they say. Whereas the WotC thing was like, oh, he's not going to be in the Mythic Invitational. In fact, that was my first experience with this Mary person, is, that announcement was up, and people were replying with, oh man, I hope he's okay. Which, to skip out on a tournament of that nature by your own doing, probably means somebody is in the hospital or has passed. Be it the person who ducked out, or somebody that, they're very close to. And missing any further context than Turtenwald out, BDM in, a lot of people were concerned that something had happened to him or somebody he cared for. And Mary's responses were somewhat hostile about being concerned about the wrong person. And I don't know, based on some of the things she says, it sounds like somebody close to her was significantly negatively impacted by this behavior, by whatever it was that happened. And, I think if that is in fact the case, she's just really fired up about it. She's really upset that, her friend was hurt. And it's causing her to act in a way that is not entirely rational, because, you can't come down on people for being like, oh God, poor Owen, I hope he's okay, when there was no information released, there was no, investigation is being performed due to allegations against him, just he's out, BDM in, done. The first reaction of anybody who, follows him, likes him, thinks he's a, fine, upstanding member of the community, is going to think that something has happened in his life. So to get hostile with people about that is, generally just not really cool. But again, I can understand if it's, a close friend of hers was in some way physically accosted by him. But seeing all this support poured out towards him just kind of pisses you off. I get it. So, I'm trying not to judge her too harshly based on her recent, Twitter actions concerning all this. Because, again, you tend to not be as rational when it's somebody that you care about. But, as far as how I feel about the whole situation, I don't know enough about the situation to feel any way about it. So, hopefully, eventually, information will be released that he was either cleared or, he's been suspended or banned or whatever. But as somebody very removed from all the people involved, the Kotaku article comes across as a little bit irresponsible. Again, I know absolutely nothing, and I'm totally admitting that. As somebody far outside the situation, it seems like a lot of, oh, well, there's rumors. Okay, don't know what to do there. As far as people going on Huey and Reed's streams and asking them to comment on it, they're not going to. I mean, that's a given. Regardless of their connection to him, they're both MPL players. I'm assuming they're not permitted to make any comment on the situation, as it is a developing situation, and there's, this is being handled by the mothership, and I'm assuming they're just straight up not allowed to say anything, so I wouldn't go poking at them. It seems rude. But, so, that's where that's at. The end gist of all of this is, I don't know what happened there, but if you see bad behavior, first recommendation is to step in and put a stop to it if you feel able to. Or if you're at an event, call a judge and have them do it, because that's part of their job. The judge's job is to uphold the rules and integrity of the game, and part of that is making sure that the players are safe and comfortable within reason. But barring that, send an email to WotC, report it. Enough reports and there's a paper trail. Make a paper trail. Have there be something to substantiate. And then when you contact Kotaku to talk about whatever situation's going on that they want to write an article, you can supply emails. You can supply where you reported with dates. Even if you're not going to put your name on it, they can redact the name, but show that there was a paper trail of reporting. But right now, all it seems like from their article is they have two people with some hearsay evidence, which, again, just speaking from that article, because I don't know anything, because I'm not connected to anything in any of this. That I don't know. It just seems off, but that's just me. So yeah, if you see bad behavior, please report it. Please do everything in your power to put an end to it and defend those who maybe don't have the ability to. But all that said, this is the end of the ride for me. So as always, if you made it this far with me, thanks very much for listening, and hopefully I'll talk to y'all on Friday.